And then Peter, you have 27, correct?
Yes.
Just look.
Sort of bigger here.
Oh, I see. You read it like that.
The problem was x squared plus 8x equals negative 1. So I added 16s at both sides, so x squared plus 8x plus 16 equals 15. And then, so I needed x plus 4 squared equals 15. X plus 4 equals square root of 15. X equals negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 15.
Anyone have questions? Would you? Only if it's a perfect square. So the numbers that make 15 are just 3 and 5, and neither one of those are perfect squares. So you would just leave that as the negative 4, then the plus or minus, and the square root of 15. And make sure the plus or minus is in between. So the plus or minus should go in between, because whatever the square root is, that's the positive and the negative part of the problem. Awesome job. Wasn't too bad going up there. So Peter has 27, the last problem, which had an imaginary answer.
So 27 was x squared minus 2x plus 25 is equal to 0. So I moved the 25 over to the other side, and then I took the coefficient of negative 2 and put it over 2 and squared it, and that gave you negative 1 squared, which is 1. So then the equation becomes x squared minus 2x plus 1 is equal to negative 24, because you have to add the 1 to both sides, and negative 25 plus 1 is negative 24. So then this side of the equation can be simplified into x minus 1 squared equals negative 24. So then it's x minus 1 is equal to plus or minus 2i square root of 6, because 24 is negative, and you can take out a 4 and a 6 from it. 4 squared is, or 4 square root of 4 is 2. So then when you add 1 to both sides, the final answer is x is equal to 1 plus or minus 2i square root of 6.
Any questions for number 27? Nice job.
Thank
No, no, it's theory. Technically, the whole number. How's it going?
Yep.
It's going. So, are there questions that you would like to go over that looked pretty good as I was walking around? We're going to practice some more today, but as I said, there's 2 problems in the packet that we're going to kind of finish off with, just to, again, go through the process of completing the square. Tomorrow, we're going to learn the final way to solve for x. So we have factoring, we have just using square roots, and then we have using completing the square so that we can solve the square roots.
Trick or treat real quick. See who we are. Hi dear. What are we having for dinner tonight?
Well, you were going to dinner tonight.
Okay. Alright.
Did they know you were doing this?
No. Well, no, he did. Did he know you were doing that?
Where's your head?
She's starting an assortment. She's got backups here in case she runs out.
You're doing ketchup?
I'm Mr. Kane. My wife Amy.
So Mr. Kane is known for wearing
Sweater vest.
sweater vests almost regularly. Except today I think he has like a
He did not.
he has like a long sleeve. He
Yeah.
still has like a long
Yeah.
sleeve, and then he likes to layer.
He always matches his pen.
Does he play
Bye.
He does play basketball in the morning. Did you
What
play
about-
basketball this morning?
No.
Well, maybe
And
tomorrow.
then this is Mr. Kern.
Yeah, I was looking for the weight room.
Alright.
Yeah.
Okay. Happy
I think they think you're crazy.
Yeah.
They think you're crazy.
They're not that wrong.
Oh, you didn't have a Pine Richland shirt on it. Your hair is covering it.
This is one of Mrs. Palmieri's kid shirts.
Oh, really? No, that's cool. You see, I wore this shirt because this is how they're meeting me. Yeah, there you go. See you later, ladies. They're English teachers. Mrs. Burns, Mrs. Trainer, actually Mrs. Trainer is now the Gates teacher. Does anybody have her? Yeah, Gavin does. So, apparently they were making fun of my husband and Mr. Kern. Mr. Kern's a good one to make fun of too. I don't think many people pick on my husband, so. Do you every day, or does he pick on you every day?
I feel like it's back.
Okay, well that's good. So if you have him in a year or 2, make sure he doesn't pick on you. He has students that he just picks on all the time. Alyssa, you might not want to take him, 'cause I have a feeling he would pick on you all the time. He teaches 11th grade AP English. He has CHS argumentation, and then he has a 10th grade regular English class. So a lot of students take him for argumentation if they don't have AP. I feel like you could be good at argumentation, arguing, debating.
I feel like there's
A lot of work? I don't know. Anybody have a sibling that has had the argumentation class?
Okay.
I believe 10.
English is just not mine.
It isn't mine either, so. But if you marry someone who's good at English, then it helps, as I have to continue to write papers every once in a while. It's good to have him around. So at the very end of your notes from yesterday, there are 2 problems at the bottom of page 21. And these 2 questions are really completing the square. However, it wants us to get the quadratic function, so instead of it being equal to 0, it's not an equation we're going to solve, but it's back in that y form. And when we were factoring, it was set equal to y, and we found zeros. So we're going to see if we can try and just change the way this problem looks and get it into a form, if it works. Oh, there we go. We're going to try and get it into this form. So we're going to complete the square. to try and see if I can get this quantity squared, which is what we've been doing. But instead of solving it, we're going to just try and get it to look a certain way. And this form is called the graphing form of an equation, which we will be doing next week, next Friday, or the following Monday. But we'll be taking these equations and kind of changing the way they look so that we can start graphing them. So for us to kind of see that now helps us then with the graphing process. So we have y equals x squared minus 12x plus 22. So the only difference is it doesn't say 0, it says y. But we're still going to start the problem the same way. We're going to take the 22 over to the other side. And that's the process that we would do. We need to eliminate the c. We're just going to stick it next to the y. So I would subtract the 22, and I'm just going to subtract it with the y. That y is staying there because eventually I need to go back into y equals 4. So I'm going to subtract 22, and then we have x squared minus 12x. So the first step to complete the square is to take that c value to the other side. However, our other side now is on the left side. So what would you do next? What's the next step of completing the square, Chris?
You take the b, which is -12, divide by 2.
Right. So we have to take the b value, we need to cut it in half, and then we square it because our goal is to get this number that's a perfect square. So Chris, -12 cut in half squared is 36. So we add 36 because I want to complete the square, making it a trinomial. What else do you have to do besides adding 36?
Then you square.
Where else do I add the 36?
Oh, on the other side.
Right. Some of you were forgetting that part there. To keep the equation equivalent, we need to make sure that we add 36 to both sides. So yes, we're putting a 36 to make it a perfect square on the one side, but I also need to add the 36 to the other, so that I'm taking that same value and keeping that equation balanced. So Chris, you said this becomes a perfect square, and that would factor as. And then on the other side, when we add -22 plus 36, we get 14. So now just to get this back into y equals form, because our goal is to kind of just change the way the equation is written. We just need to get y by itself, keep that quantity that's squared in the front, and then I have to just subtract 14. Hold on, Jack. Make sure you do this on a separate piece of paper, and the problem's only a second sheet that you do. So the numbers 6 and -14 are going to mean something to us, as well as if there were a number in front, and there aren't in this case, but we're going to look at that -6 and -14, and we'll be using that eventually, but today is just kind of getting it into this form. So once y is by itself, I now have something squared and then this extra number. Again, we're not solving, so you don't have to solve this time. We're just trying to transform it, change the way it's written. Questions? So the last problem up here, we're going to just do the same way. So we're going to change the way it's written, trying to write it in this form where we have a quantity squared. And again, that process is completing the square. So we'll move the 53 over with the y. So Cole, after we move the 53 over, what's the next step?
We need to divide 16 by 2 square.
And that gives you
60.
64. And what you do to one side, we also need to add the 64 to the other. And that keeps the equation balanced. So you're not just adding something on one side of the equation, we have to make sure we're keeping each piece the same. Cole, how would the x squared plus 6x plus 64 factor?
X plus
Nice. And then -53 plus 64 is 11. Nice job. So So our equation would say x plus h squared, and then I need to subtract the 11 to get y by itself. So again, when we talk about graphing, you're going to see this form, and the numbers in here will mean pieces of the graph. They'll represent different parts of the graph. Questions? So that's all I have for today. And that gives you about 20 minutes. I have a worksheet for us to just kind of practice this completing the square one more day. As I said, tomorrow we will be looking at method number 4 to solve these equations, and that's called the quadratic formula. I ask that you do this either on the back or on a separate piece of paper, but not on here. The problems are like squished one on top of the other. There is no room for you to have any kind of work. You're not doing all of it. Make sure you just do the odds 1 to 27 and then number 31. Yes, so write the problem on a separate piece of paper or on the back.
Okay, go to the back.
So I will send the answers out. Send the answers out to you. I have the worksheet from yesterday to pass back to you. But again, you can do it on the back if you want. I don't think you'll put all of them on the back here, but probably a line piece of paper might be better. Grab a partner, ask questions. Tomorrow we're doing the last process, and then next week when you get back from your 4-day weekend, we'll review for a quiz on Thursday on the 4 different ways to solve.